It just popped today. Are we live? Are we on? Is it happening? No music today? Da 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 da. Hey, we need the music. Da, 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 da. I bring the guy from the radio station. I don't play a song before the show. So I can have more water. That's good. Thank you very much, Vegas Brown, Svinia, Stu's children, Stu, Hanako, and Leo for recording this beautiful song, and Mr. Ethan. Thank you very much for all the support. We're live, ALTBAYS Show, brought to you by ALTBAYS.nz. Yes, we are sponsoring ourselves because someone has to. Ha! And thank you very much for tuning in. It's a pleasure to see you all here. We're live 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, bringing interesting and exciting people from New Zealand to have a chat. Yeah. If you want to rent this space, if you want to do your own podcast or maybe some live meetings or webinars, you just get in touch with us and we'll get you sorted. ALTBAYS.nz. You can send us a message or even suggest some cool people that we should bring to our show. We appreciate good suggestions. On my left tonight, the Paea. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
It's been a while, eh? You're a busy woman, I forget.
I'm super busy.
I know.
Superwoman.
Superwoman, super busy.
Maybe, that could be my fight name.
Cool. So when you're fighting, when you're on the MMA thing, like Championship World,
Yeah,
that's
Superwoman.
Yeah.
Maybe.
maybe.
We'll see.
We'll
see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
And here in front of us, Mr. John Grant. Yeah. Good to see you, John.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks for accepting the invite.
It's a pleasure. Yeah.
It's our pleasure. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm really well. Thank you.
Enjoying the change of seasons in the Coromandel here for us at the moment?
Look, I really do. You know, it's fantastic to be able to sort of go around and just see things at different times of the year, and it's really interesting. I love the trips down south as well this time of the year with the colour changes that you see with all the trees and things. It's
nice down there.
Just beautiful. So it's terrific.
Right. So when you're not running the show at CFM and doing your other things around Whitianga, what are your go-tos in New Zealand? Where do you love going to?
Central Otago probably is my go-to place. So, you know, that's the place that I really feel close to things. So when I need to get away for a little while and re-energize and feel sort of whole again after being pulled or...
Turanga Waiwai?
Yeah. Turanga Waiwai, the place where you connect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That seems to be my place.
Were you born in New Zealand?
Yeah.
What part?
I was born in Auckland, funnily enough. And I probably spent most of my time in Auckland, although I've travelled quite a bit. So outside of Auckland, we've lived in Wellington. We went from Wellington to Melbourne, from Melbourne to Brisbane back to Melbourne. So our kids mainly grew up in Australia. Lively
places, eh? You guys chose. Fantastic.
Yeah. It was work-wise, got moved around a little bit. And
what were you doing that was taking you to these different places? What was the job?
Most of my working career has been in the insurance industry.
Right, okay. I don't know if many people know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So, and I'm still quite involved. So I run an insurance brokerage here. I'm part of, there's 3 partners in it. And that's sort of part of my story as well, because prior to this, I spent nearly 10 years down in Christchurch working on the Canterbury earthquake and helping drive the solutions for a lot of people down there. So
wow, commercial and also households and
Right. I was actually working for a company on contract called Suncorp, and Suncorp own Vero. They manage the AMP business in New Zealand. They have AA insurance. They manage the ANZ insurance as well. So I was the head guy down in Christchurch looking after all of the claims for those brands for the Canterbury earthquake.
Ooh, I bet there were a few.
Yeah, we
Doing big things.
Wow.
Yeah.
we paid while I was down there. And listen to this number: $5.6 billion in claims.
What the hell?
Yeah, so I was quite, I had personal signing authority up to $20 million, and so I was sort of seeing a lot of these claims come through and signing these things off.
Right.
But I had a great team of people, and that's sort of a little bit now back to the Coromandel connection. Was that when that contract was coming to an end, we had a chat and ended up two of the guys deciding that they'd like to come here with me, and we formed an insurance broking business. So that's something else that I do on the side. So that's been really interesting.
It's still for houses and properties, or all sorts of.
Yeah, everything. So, we're a full-blown broker, so we can insure big buildings through to boats out on the water, to aeroplanes if we have to, people coming and going on travel. We'll do the lot. So that's part of how we operate. Coromandel Insurance Services.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out. Mom. Yes.
Shout out.
John, I just want to go back to the Christchurch thing, because you know what? As soon as you said earthquake, what came to my mind was every time that there's an insurance involved, in my life at least, that quote always rings something, is like, we don't cover natural disasters. Hey,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, man, he's talking about these billions of dollars involved in, we don't cover natural disasters. So it's clearly not the case, right? There are different situations and
if you've accumulated assets, you want to insure those assets. So, that's what insurance is for. So get a good broker and get the best advice and get those things covered.
Nature won't have a chance.
Well,
Nature can never go. But
Canterbury was proof of the pudding, really, because it was an event. I think the last time I saw the total amount paid by EQC, which is the government insurer that contributes towards some of the earthquake claims, and private insurers, I think it was up to nearly $40 billion had been paid out in claims. And considering the size of Christchurch, compared to other cities around the world, it's a large amount of money for a small place, down at this end of the world.
Wow. Where have you been back recently? When was the last time you visited Christchurch?
I was there probably 6 months ago.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
How does it feel? How does it feel to go back and look at things and kind of like, connect what you've seen? And I believe you also dealt with a lot of emotions, people obviously.
Yeah.
So how is the feeling of going back and seeing the place?
It was a hard period of time, because you go through this after an event like that, and the first thing that happens is that people are sort of stunned. They don't know what to do. Houses are destroyed. They're not sure whether they want to stay, whether to go, whether to rebuild, whatever. So it takes a while for them to resolve themselves. While that's going on, you've also got the government unclear whether they think it's right to rebuild in the place, so they're still deciding whether the land's okay to reuse and all those type of things. And then you've got just the mechanics of getting the money, organising the people, the builders, and materials. It's such a big project, and it all has to sort of fit together and work. So I reckon it probably took 2 to 3 years just to get to base one. And and then by that stage, you had a lot of people that were disgruntled, wanting claims paid, and it was hard work. We had to get a good team of people together.
Oh, I
You
bet.
suddenly just can't. At its peak, we had 250 people working for me down there. So we had a really busy
That's a lot
time.
of people.
That's a lot
Yeah.
of people. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Do you remember the earthquake?
I remember seeing
Christchurch?
bits of it on TV. It was quite scary. I think I was only young because when did it actually happen? Like 2000 and
Do you remember the year, John?
Yeah, I do. So there were two main earthquake events. So it happened in 2010. So the first one was in September 2009, and that was pretty bad. You know, it gave everybody a huge amount of shock, and everything was just sort of getting organised again after that. And on the 22nd of February 2010 came the second earthquake, and that's the one that really destroyed the city and did a lot of collateral damage to houses around the wider Canterbury area. So it really restarted. So there were actually in total 4 pretty big earthquake events. Another one in June of 2010 and another one in December 2010. Oh, wow. So you had 4 events. So you imagine a house, you know, that's partly damaged in September, it gets further damaged in February, more damage in June, and written off in December. And you got to try and work out how to pay it, where to pay it, you know, which one of those events. You know, it was, But look, we had a great team of people, and whenever a disaster strikes, it's about the people, you know, and the people you're working with and what you do.
Definitely.
And so we were madly recruiting, you know, trying to find this team of people that we could bring in. So, you know, we were recruiting builders like mad because we needed people who understood construction, you know, what damage had been done and what was needed to do to fix it. We needed people that were really good with people to be able to just sit down and talk to them and listen, to communicate well, to you know, to have that relationship that people could feel a degree of trust in what was being said and what was being done. We needed people that were really good on accounts and computers and systems. So, you know, that whole process of having to build a business, you know, and not have years to do it. You had to do it really quickly.
Would anyone in the team be specialized in the earthquakes? You know, because New Zealand, it's something that we know that it can happen. Is it something that it becomes kind of like an essential part of running an insurance?
Look, as part of it, we ended up with a team of about 4 engineers that were working for us all the time. One of them was a specialist in the geology aspects of that, so gave us a lot of advice around those areas. And then the others were structural engineers who were able to look at damage and work out, you know, what was needed, work with the builders around the solutions and those type of areas. So that was so we had those aspects to it. But the key people really were those that were really good solution drivers, that were able to communicate well with people, take them on the journey with them. And one of those people is the guy that I'm working with here on the insurance business. So it's a guy called Dave Enright, and Dave at the time was living at Mount Maunganui, and I'd worked with him previously in another life. So I rung him up and I said, I need you down here. Can you hop on the plane and come down for a couple of months and help me out? And so he packed everything up and came down for a couple of months. It's a really long story, and I won't go through all the detail of it. But in the process of that, he ended up staying with me right through the whole 9 years, and I moved from doing the work for one company to working with Suncorp, and I made that move while we were down there, and he also moved across with me to that. And my other partner in the insurance business, Rob, is a younger guy, and he's English, and he came out to Christchurch because of the earthquakes, and he is a guy who learned a heck of a lot. Young bloke when he really came out, and he worked with us on part of the claim, involved in very technical claims, very difficult claims where we needed someone who was really good at maths and doing the calculations and things. So he worked through that, and as it got towards the end of it, we had a talk with him and said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, love to be an insurance broker. And I said, well, this is what we're talking about doing. Would you like to come in and be a partner in the business with us? And he's jumped on board, and, it's so good having a mix of people, and someone young in the business who's got that level of drive and enthusiasm and ideas and the stupid stuff that you want to do, because it pushes you all the time, and you need that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What about the tsunami warnings here in Whitianga? Is it something that you always kind of like paying attention?
Yeah.
And
well, I'm particularly passionate about it. And
come on, wave.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to a guy today who's a lovely bloke, right? And he lives on a boat at the marina. And he said that when the last the tsunami came through, it was like he was at sea. He said he got thrown around so much in the boat. It was like they were out on the water. And he said, it was running 8 knots through the marina. And, it was a big event, and most people really don't know that, I was talking to people because I wasn't actually in town on the day, but, the water went out of the estuary and then came back in within half an hour.
Wow.
So, again, that was not really covered all that well. So the one thing that illustrates, we're all here talking about it going, wow, that's, one of those things. But if it was a bigger event, if it was slightly closer, and all of those scenarios are absolutely possible here, it could be quite catastrophic. And so, that's why I'm really passionate about the subject of alerting and people being prepared and ready for these things, because I've seen it firsthand in Christchurch. So,
Right.
Weren't they going to get rid of the sirens? Didn't they say they were going to get rid of the sirens?
Yeah, the sirens are gone. No more. They finished. No, as of September last year. So you hear the siren now. That's just for the fire brigade.
Oh right.
So we don't have to worry about it anymore, because it's always like.
To be honest, I would rather have the sirens. I would like to know if there was a tsunami happening.
Is it because of the cost of maintenance, or because cell phones nowadays are the way to go?
Funny thing, it's very political.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. So look, I've got some views on it. I think that you have to push some of those things aside sometimes. There's really good new technology now, to be fair, though. The cell phone alert system is pretty good, and social media is pretty good. But, you might recall that we actually had an earthquake event. I'm trying to remember. It was probably sort of about 12 months ago, something like that. Might have been 9 months ago. It happened about 2 o'clock in the morning, and it woke a lot of people up.
I remember, like, we had like a few earthquakes actually, like little ones.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that little, but it was quite a way away. So by the time it got here, it wasn't quite so bad. But again, it just shows the reality of it. And, being this earthquake guy from Christchurch, I've looked at things a little bit as well. And we have a fault line not too far away from here, Aotearoa. And there's a fault line that runs through there. They've only really discovered it in the last few years that it's there. And back at, I think it was around 1930, there was a magnitude 6 earthquake around Tairua. So, again, really close and right in the centre of where we are here in the Coromandel. So these events can happen. And then they've just released some information around the likelihood of liquefaction. And what's liquefaction? That's when the ground actually liquefies and like this mud comes up and bubbles up out of the water and causes some flooding. But in the process, everything slumps because all the gunk comes
Why does
out.
that happen?
it happens as a result of an earthquake. So if you can imagine, you get a big bowl, and you put sand in the bowl and really shake it, all the water will come to the top.
Yeah.
And it's the same theory, but what happens with the actual ground. So you shake it enough, and if you've got the right materials of sand and soils that are quite easily transfer moisture, they will all come to the top, but you'll also get all this mud and gunk. And the liquefaction actually is like concrete, so once it comes to the surface, it sets and it's rock hard, and so that in itself causes significant damage. So if all the stuff comes out and your house is on it, the house is going to go like that. So that's an issue. And then they've just released this thing on the Coromandel, which shows that there's a lot of areas around the Coromandel and the Hauraki Plains which is subject to liquefaction. So
Are we one of them in Whitianga?
Yeah, there are places around Whitianga where that can happen as well. So I don't want to be the bearer of all these bad news, but you asked me the question. I am concerned about it.
That's interesting.
So,
that's good to know.
Yeah.
When I think about when you say things moving, I think about humans changing nature and making adaptations, and especially developers when they get in the game of making things more accessible for houses. And do you guys have to play together, like insurance companies and developers, when it comes to these matters of like where to build and what to change, if it's going to affect, or nah, they just run independently?
Well, to answer your question, the issue that sits around the Coromandel now is climate change and is rising seas, and a lot of people argue against these things, and I'm not going to take a view either way, apart from the reality that there is change that is taking place. Just go down Brophy's Beach,
you can see it,
and see the damage that is occurring in around these places. So insurers are really nervous about it, and so they are starting to look very closely. One insurer that we know, which is the largest insurer in New Zealand, IAG, now has many of the places around the Coromandel on referral, so it means that you can't automatically get cover. They want to have a look at it and will decide whether they believe the risk is too great for them to write the business. And so that impacts people quite a bit, because if you're buying a house and you go online, for example, and go, I'll put this insurance with AMI, for example, it'll go, brr, can't do it. You've got to get on the phone, talk to someone, and they'll either say yes or no. And recently we had cases with another insurer where they have been writing to people saying, we're no longer going to insure you. So when the policy comes up for renewal, we won't be renewing it. So you need to go out there and find another insurer. So fortunately, they can come to people like us, and we go out and we find another insurer for them. But there are areas, and the one that comes to mind particularly is one down near Thames, where they have quite wide areas which have been subject to some previous flooding, or even just reports that it is potential to flood, where the insurers won't insure them. So, those are all sort of considerations and things. It is changing, and it's just a consideration. I live on Robinson Road, and we've got probably 2 meters of clearance on a high tide.
Yes, so, you guys can watch it very closely.
Yeah.
Yes,
well, fortunately, I'm an old bugger, so but I've got to think about it from the kids and the next generations that are coming through as well. So,
wow.
Yeah.
John, that's the cool thing about our show. People come here thinking we're gonna talk about radio, and here we are.
Well, let's talk radio.
Gems about earthquakes. It's always cool to learn stuff. So thank you for that. No, I was not expecting that. That was fantastic. That's cool. So was it something that was always running on parallel, like this passion towards media and music and radio? Like, it was something new for you? It was like, okay, now I'm gonna run a radio station.
Look, radio's been a passion of mine from day one. You know, I reckon I had headphones on probably when I was born. You know, it's in the blood, and I can sort of talk to that. But to answer your question, I spent 10 years in Christchurch, and as I was coming towards the end of it, I'm a guy who likes to keep busy. And sometimes I'm a little stupid in making some decisions, you know, because I make them thinking that I just really have to do these things, you know. And, you know, I'd worked really hard for 10 years down there on these earthquakes. And suddenly I was, you know, going, what am I going to do tomorrow? You know, when this contract finishes, I've got to have something to keep me going. So I'll start and run this insurance business. But boy, I'm going to be able to do what I've always wanted to do and have my own radio station.
Cool.
You know, so you know, and that's how life with Whitianga sort of really happened, because you know I'm sitting in Christchurch, thinking these things, and you know, looking around, and then pop up comes this thing saying there's going to be a tender process for a radio license in Whitianga, and so I hop on and have a look, and go, yeah, that's for me. You know, I can see myself, small little radio station in Whitianga, and I can have some fun with this thing, and that was the thought process at that time. And then the rest of me takes over and goes, well, it doesn't have to be little. I can do something bigger.
Yeah. Yes.
And how can I take this idea, you know, because once I got the license for Whitianga, how could I take this and go right around the whole of the Coromandel? Because I thought at that time, from the visits I had here, it really needed to have some form of communication medium that was Coromandel-wide.
Right.
And so I set out on the task of trying to find some answers for that.
Right. Well, this question might sound a bit like very immature, but I gotta ask because some people might have the same thing in their minds as me. I worked in a radio station in Brazil. It was actually my second job. I studied social communication, so it was a big part of my life. And I was always into those like rock and roll radios, you know. So I remember in the car, 2 different radios. One, you would turn the knob thing and you would find it, and sometimes it would be very close and it wouldn't be great, and then you would struggle to find it. And some other ones were the digital ones that you just go tuk 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 tuk, and it jumps like very slowly, you know, but it finds the radio and you're there and you're like, hey, cool, good, got it. So you said that you saw the advertisement there to get a radio station. What is that process? So like if you have the possibility and you can afford to get the license, like, do you just get a number there, or like there's a limit in the country that says we can only have this amount of, can you take us through this process?
It's
cool.
a simple one. It's not complicated. So, you know, on the FM broadcast band, there is only so many frequencies available. And if there's a frequency available, then under the current arrangements with government, that is available to be acquired. And if you want it, and that's what we ended up doing, this one came up for tender because it was previously allocated to someone. They'd handed it back and said, we no longer need it. So the process is they put that out for tender. It goes on Trade Me, actually. So you go in there and you bid for it, right?
Wow.
And so I was bidding away and picked it up. But then once we got that, we had to acquire other ones for other sites to be able to take it around the rest of the Coromandel.
That's why it's always different, right?
Yeah.
When you go to different
theoretically,
cities.
but I'll cover that in a sec. So if you look here, West Coast, East Coast, so we went back to the West Coast and we had a radio engineer look for, find and construct an opportunity to buy a frequency. So we found this one for 94.0 FM, 94.0. And so we had it engineered. We went to them and said, we'd like to have this. And they go, terrific, we'll put it up on Trade Me and see who bids for it. And at the same time, there was another frequency that someone else had engineered that they did the same thing for that site. I think it was 104.6. So on the day that these tenders go, so the tenders run for, I think, about 3 or 4 days, right? And then it gets to the point, you know what it's like when you're on Trade Me and you really want something.
Yeah.
And you're a bidder for it, and so you've got the highest bid, and then someone else comes in, and it has an automatic 2-minute extension while it gives the other
It's
party.
like an art to bidding on.
The bidding.
Yeah.
Trade Me.
Yeah.
You got to wait until like the right minute, and then it ends, and then you've won.
So, and both of these things were going at the same time, right? So 104.6 and 94. And so I go, oh, you know, because these are not cheap, these things. And so I'm going, well, I'll bid for both of them, because if I miss one, I'll have the other one.
And if you get both?
Well, I'm going, I'm not
you're
going
out of money.
I'm just not going to get both, right? So I went bidding away, and one of them is going up, you know, quite slowly, but the other one is just going crazy, you know, and I'm bidding and having to put more into it, and I'm going, well, I'm getting close to my limit here. And then it stops, you know, the bidding process stops, and the other one starts up and starts going really crazy. So I'm back on this thing. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at this going, I could end up with both of them here, you know. So and, you know, I think I paid, you know, it was somewhere in the vicinity of 70,000 for that license across there. And it's not buying it, it's to be able to lease it for about 11 years.
Oh,
so you
okay.
actually pay a one-off fee, and then you pay an annual fee after that. So,
right.
So that just gives you the right to have that frequency and use that frequency, and then it gets handed back in, and it goes back through the whole process.
Unless you renew that, and then it's you have the right to renew, right? It comes to you first. Really?
No.
Hey.
Yeah. So they're still working on that, because all of the licenses come up for renewal on 2031. And the association, I'm part of the Radio Broadcast Association, and they're looking at that and that whole means of being able to do that, because it could end up being pretty ugly, and where the licenses are captured by the person with the biggest pockets to block everybody else out. And
Do you think it was actually like they got caught, like by like they had a thought? Because like when you see it as an optimistic, as someone who is seeing the good side of it, I would say, oh, nice. It renews. It gives opportunity for all the people to have that space. But then from your perspective, obviously it makes sense that the people with more money will have they're saying. So do you see it as a possibility to change that?
Look, I hope so. I'm I think that they're sort of looking at this, trying to sort of say, well, is the system fair? Is there a better way of doing this? And radio is evolving. You know, it's the changes that are taking place with Spotify and all other sorts of mechanisms, such as this, you know, that are all competing for that entertainment space and where things are at. So you've got to be able to adapt and go with things. So, you know, overseas DAB or DAB has become very popular. And, you know, with DAB, you can have one frequency. So the equivalent of, say, 95.1, which is our frequency here. And under 95.1, you could have an unlimited number of radio stations with the right equipment, all on that one frequency. And it's all broadcast digitally. So you have a digital receiver, and you just have all the stuff coming through, and the digital receiver separates each one of them, and you have all these different stations.
So you can have one platform with different genres, different
Absolutely. You know, so you could have a radio station which appeals particularly to, you know, one sector, and, you know, and change things around. But then you can't have the personality aspects to that, because you can't afford to have staff doing all of those things. So it's, you know, it changes the whole mix and way you do things quite considerably. So
that would sound like it would work in a community sense, right? If you have the platform strong, already established, and then you see potential for people to run those shows for you, to do those things and still feed the main platform.
Yep.
That's an interesting way to collaborate and see how this would unfold. How do you feel about technology? Like, do you keep up with everything that is happening?
I try. It's technology is probably my absolute bent, on this thing. I really sort of get off on that a little bit. And I like, I talked to you before about, I'm the sort of person, give me a problem, I'll find you a solution. That's what I really enjoy doing. So, I'm the type of personality that actually enjoys finding it and then going on to the next problem. So I'm not the person that sort of stays with things and be the general manager of it all the way through and develop. Once I've got the thing going, I pass it on to someone else who's got the strengths. And as far as CFM is concerned, that person at the moment is my lovely wife, Linda, who runs the day-to-day aspects of the station, and she's really good at doing that. And and that's needed because it's not necessarily my skill set. So if it breaks down, I'm there and I'll work on trying to find the solution for it. But, yeah.
But she's aware of everything. She knows what's happening.
Yeah. Poor old Linda. She,
we might bring Linda next time.
Yeah. You get a totally different perspective on it, I'm sure. But she's not here today because she's off tramping tomorrow.
Oh, good on her.
Yeah. So she's heading down to Greymouth and doing the walk that goes down to the Punakaki rocks. So it's about a 3-day tramp. And she tramps with a group of ladies that have done it every year, and I think this is about the 23rd year or something.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And
that's awesome.
So they always get up to some sort of mischief and do one of these tramps.
We're going tramping,
Yeah, so
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
if you're not sure about Linda's the person who for the last several weeks has been walking up Centennial Drive most days, sometimes twice a day with a pack on. Getting fit, to body condition for the big tramp. So she's off tomorrow to do that, and that's her happy place.
Nice,
where she enjoys going.
Go Linda.
Yeah, go Linda. And that led into what I was going to tell you about, because Linda came from, she's a city girl. She really enjoys city life, and Whitianga is not a city, so that was a bit of a change and adaptation for her to move through to here. She's on the business association now, and been involved in that for, I think this is her second term that she's on. And prior to that, she worked at Smith & Coe's. So I don't know if you know Smith & Coe's, but it's a department store in Auckland, and was one of the original department stores. And she was responsible for cosmetics and fragrance. So it probably sums things up. She's a real, cool. Girly girl, and so she'd never had any experience involved in running radio stations, apart from being part of my life and my involvement from time to time in doing things, because I've been involved in community radio for a long time. Right. And so, she has adapted and got involved and understands the radio business pretty well these days. So it's a bit different from cosmetics, eh?
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yes. She knows about the people who are keen to advertise. She can go for those guys for the cosmetics. But that's cool. Yeah. What were you doing when you were doing the community radio stations? Were you on air, or you were like in the background doing all the work?
Yeah, no, look, I've done everything, and I quite enjoy on air. I just personally, if I was doing it, I would probably be doing this type of format, where I enjoy interviewing people and asking some questions and sort of delving into areas. I find that really quite interesting. And our station isn't that type of format. We like doing short interviews with people to cover off on things that might be coming up. And but the rest of the time we just like to play some music and engage and just really keep those community event notices and information ticking over. So it's all a little different, really.
Would you say that the CFM it's a radio station that plays music and inform, or is the opposite? It's more there to inform and play music.
Yeah,
Which one is the main one? Would you say?
Definitely to inform, but you got to play the music because you need to entertain as well to keep the listeners. So you've got to blend it and get the mix right to be able to do that. But I probably didn't answer your question all that well before about the community station. So, my journey in radio has covered off a few different things, but in more recent times, before I came to Whitianga, I ran a little station called The Flea.
The Flea.
The Flea. And it's a community station in Auckland, and The Flea FM. So it's based out of Devonport. On the peninsula of the North Shore, and it broadcasts to people in Devonport and right through to sort of Takapuna, but you could pick it up across in Birkenhead and into the city as well. Just community, very little ads. It was really all about what's happening in that area, and entirely run by volunteers. I think our monthly budget was $700 a month.
Hey.
So that was, and we had, I think up to about, at the maximum, about 22 volunteers that had different shifts on the place. So you probably have a feel for that, and what's involved in that. So they came along to get experience, So we've got some of our people that were on the Flea that are now in commercial radio around Auckland, around New Zealand, doing shows on things like ZM. So it was a great learning ground for people. Probably the one person that sort of comes to mind is the guy that's now working on Disney Radio over in the US. And he spent 4 years, started off with us as a... how old would Liam have been? He would have been probably only about 12 or 13 when he first came on air with us. And
That's young.
Very young, very young. But he was driven. He was absolutely determined. Mum and Dad came to the studios every week with him.
Cool.
And they sat out and drank their coffee while he did his show.
That's cool.
He was a mad Michael Jackson fan. So he knew everything about Michael Jackson, and I'm not a Michael Jackson fan, so that took a little bit of
not even the dance moves, John. Gotta appreciate that.
Definitely not the dance moves. So he came along, and lovely young guy, and you could see him grow and develop over that 4 years that he was with us. And it happened to be the time when Michael Jackson died through that period as well, which was very traumatic for him. And he came out of it. And the thing that was really impressive with him was that he worked hard on developing his listener base. And he quite quickly worked out that the best way that he could actually do that was on social media by getting a lot of people following him. So he became very involved in both Facebook and Twitter, and grew. I think at one point he had the second highest following in New Zealand.
Oh wow!
Which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And he would be able to attract all these people, and so our online listeners just went berserk when he came in to do his show, because he was pushing it on social media, and they'd know that it was coming up, so he would get involved and he would do that. And then he finished at the station and went and worked for one of the network stations, and wasn't comfortable. That wasn't him. He quite quickly decided not to do that. And about a year or two after, he left and went over to the States and had a couple of jobs doing production work, some reporting work, and then was offered a job with Disney Radio.
Disney Radio.
Yeah, which is where he is today.
Cool,
And
yeah.
really cool. And I get a real buzz out of contributing, in the way that we did to Liam's success, and we learned a lot through that whole process. You might see at CFM we do a lot on social media as well, and a lot of that is what I've learned from Liam's success, and how we can adapt and use that as well.
Gotta be there, eh? Gotta do the
Is
social
that
media
radio
well.
station still going?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I finished tried to finish my involvement in it. I still get dragged back in there every now and again, as problem solving.
The flea bite too.
Yeah. It sort of gets in your ear, as they say. But largely I'm now out of it, and a new group's taken over, and it's taken a complete twist, So the three people who are involved in it, which is down to two now. One of them is a doctor of psychology, and the other one is an accountant.
Oh, wow.
Nice mix,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
The
great
third
mix.
guy, who's now left and gone to Australia, was a botanist. So,
What's that?
plants.
Botanics.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, those type of things. So, and the station, the theme of the station is moved now to mental health, and
That's really
cool.
and
Yeah.
provides a lot of program content and interviews people on the subject of mental health. And I must twist your arm one day to get this Dr. Robin and have a chat with her in here. Because she's a really interesting lady.
That would be
and-
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
and
We'll keep in touch. We get some contacts.
Yeah, we'll get some ideas going. So that's sort of where I get involved. They still run it out of my, I've got a house still in Auckland, and they and it's still based in the garage of the house.
Yes.
We're trying hard to convince them to move it and take it out so we can get some cars parked in there, but that's where it is at the moment, and that's been running. It's one of the longest running radio stations now in Auckland. Is the Flea. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know about that. There you go.
Totally not for profit station.
But it's there.
It is there.
John, why should people give more attention to local radio stations? I read a cool article from Jason. Shout out to Jason.
Yeah. Jace.
And Karen, good man as well. Actually, the whole crew from CFM.
Really good.
Love. We're gonna get there to the shout outs as the show goes on. But I read this cool article that he was talking about how, and actually there were some words from you, how the impact of the COVID thing, made to the small local radio stations. And can you just take us through this? Like, why is it so important for us to support the radio station at this time, especially at this time?
Well, I'm absolutely sold on the concept of localism. So, and localism to me is around a voice of the community. It's an ability to be able to tell people what is happening and give people an opportunity to contribute. And there are so many terrific things taking place. To give you an example, so on Friday we are going to the bottom of Cook Street to the community area down there, where the toy, what do you call it? Where the toy library.
Oh yeah, the toy library. Yes,
is rejuvenating itself.
Cool.
Under Chrissy, who with her partner runs the mini putt. So she's taken over the control of this as a community group, and a terrific idea. So it has all these toys, and people can come in and borrow them for a period of time, like you would a book out of a library, and the kids have something to play with that's different, and so on. And it's all run by the community, paid for by contributions by people or sponsors or grants that they receive, and they get the toys in. And what's our part of that? Well, we'll tell people about it, and we'll take our caravan along on Friday, and we'll broadcast from there, so people who are listening in will be able to hear that this is on. They might pop by and come through and have a look and go, wow, I'll get involved in this.
Yes.
And so suddenly we've got a really good positive community thing that's underway. And so that's the example of the type of thing that we can do, and just looking at things tonight, we're getting emails that come through every few hours from people saying, can you promote this as a community event? And we go, absolutely. So to be able to promote things as a community event, we have to have people listen to us. If we get people to listen to us, we have to be interesting and entertaining. So, it's all that mix that you've just got to get into the pot and create and make right. And when you do, it's a powerful medium. And if you look around the place, what have we got around the Coromandel that consolidates it as a single means of being able to communicate? So if there's something really interesting taking place in Coromandel, or something interesting that's taking place in Tairua or Whangamata or Pawanui, how do you get to know about it? What's the mechanism? So unless you are seeing things pop up on social media, there is no other really means of being able to do that. And if you have a radio going in the background, suddenly you hear someone come on and have a talk about a car club meeting, or it might be a circus coming to town or something. It just triggers you and you listen, and that's how you find out. So, that's why I think that what we do is just so important. We help people raise money. We help awareness of community groups and things that are taking place. And, we'll promote it like mad through whatever means that we can. And in that way, it means that people are hearing about it, are energizing it, are getting involved in things, and that's what it's really all about. And
it comes back, right? It's full circle. That's the thing. When you do something for people close to you, you know that it's going to come back. It's going to generate that cool, positive vibration, right? So I appreciate what you guys do. And you were talking about the local events, and then I just wanted to get a segue to the local artists, to the upcoming artists, because I must say, I asked Brielle this question, but when I asked her, I was thinking about my experience as well, because she said she's got songs on Spotify, and she's huge, like on YouTube. There's so many videos, so many views on her videos. But then I asked her,
very, very talented.
She's great, eh?
Oh, so good.
And I asked her, I was like, how did you feel about seeing so many views and compared to listening to your voice on the radio? And she was like, oh, the radio was the coolest, and then I was thinking, yeah, the radio is the coolest, because the first time that I actually played on a radio station was on CFM with Stu, our duo. So one of our songs, Not My Circus, Not My Monkeys. If you like that song, you can
love it.
Go on CFM and ask them to play the song. That would be cool.
It's on our playlist.
I know,
so
right?
It actually comes up on Rotate.
Made it to the playlist, yeah. Anyway, and I have a moment in my life where we listened to the song together, Stu and I, and we were so happy. Like, I sent it to my mom. I'm like, Mom, can you believe that I'm playing on a radio station in New Zealand, in the place where I live here? So it just gave us this moment of joy. Yeah. And for me, it was like, this is cool, man. It's not that easy, to play on a radio station. And you guys just being like, yeah, send us the song. If it's a good song is a good song, right? If it's a good song, yeah, we'll play it. And I'm like, yeah.
Well, it's more than that. We will play it, but we are there to support local artists, and if we could just about play nothing but local artists, we would. Yeah. And it's been a bit frustrating trying to actually get local artists engaged and part of the station. So there's a shout out right now to anybody. If they want some airtime, we're absolutely cool to do that. Just drop us an email, hello@CFM, and we'll be in touch and we'll work with them on it.
Cool. Have you met Dave Rhodes?
Yeah, I know Dave. Yeah.
And Matt Sefton from Coromandel Town. Have you met these guys? Because they could be, well, again, like we are about collaboration as well, you know. So
Yeah.
Dave Rhodes, fantastic music
And
producer.
a talented musician himself,
man.
isn't he?
Like going to record the drums with him is a bit like, oh shit, there's a drummer there, man, watching me. Shit.
Well, we played his song recently. You know that.
Oh, one of the covers, that he did. Was that right?
Yeah.
Yes. Who was the band that they covered?
Oh, there were so many involved, and it was a collaboration. It was done over.
Tom Petty song?
Yeah.
Tom Petty song?
Yeah,
That's right.
it was. Well done. Yeah.
Great musician. Yeah, so I you know, even when you say that, like, we want to help this part of the process as well, you know,
Yeah.
because if we know that there are great producers in Whitianga, in Coromandel Town, in the area that can help these artists, and then you have the radio station,
Yep.
and then you have ALTBAYS to come and have a chat, you know, because we're also doing our part with the online contents, you know, like we got to make the Coromandel more relevance in the scene,
Yeah.
because there's space, right, for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and it doesn't. You know, from our perspective, musicians are great because it gets into two parts. It tells us we can talk about the story of the people and what's behind them and their skills and things, but we can play the music, which gets into the entertainment part as well. You know, so the two blend together just so nicely. But in other areas of art as well, you know, we want to get involved, and we do whatever we possibly can to promote the many very talented people that there are around the whole Coromandel. You know, it's amazing. From photography to painting, you know, there are just so many people that have got so much to offer.
It's true. Wait, are you a radio person, Paea? Do you listen to radio, or you used to listen to?
I listen to the radio
Yeah.
when I'm in the car.
There you
That's
go.
probably the only time, to be honest. But yeah, I do enjoy listening to the radio. It's kind of nice. It breaks up like the driving and stuff. I enjoy listening to people talk. Instead, sometimes I don't want to listen to music all the time. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Do they play us at the gym?
I don't think they do. I think it's because we've got a playlist going on, but
Right.
maybe we should.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Or just get like times, you know, where you have because I don't know, I could be wrong, but like people at the gym, they always have their headphones.
Yeah.
And the ones who don't, I think they're more into listening to music, like constant. I could be wrong. Like
Yeah.
people are different, right? So maybe if it was like a CFM rotation, let's say, then could be
That'd
a
be cool to
cool
have
thing,
one
you
then.
know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that there's a time. Just throwing some ideas there. How much do you put your hand on the songs that are playing on the playlists? Because I know that there's is that Karen who is more in charge of that part? Do you give your suggestions?
Karen and I have a healthy dialogue in regard to the music. So
Great, that's
you know,
a
and
good way to put
that's
it.
what's needed. You know, he knows far more than I do about songs and music and the whole business of being able to work out how the best mix of that music. So I'm an absolute outside amateur, you know, compared to Kieran's ability in regard to that. But I also, you know what I like to hear and what I don't like. So, you know, we're very pitched at nothing extreme on the station. So we've got to be able to cater for a very wide group of people. And there's some great music, you know, and even now, you know, there's a lot of songs that I don't hear on the playlist that I would like to have there. So I keep saying, gosh, you know, haven't heard the song for a while or something. So, you know, go looking and then see that it's only played once or twice, so it's got a low priority on the playlist. So have a chat about that as to why that is the case and see if we can get the priorities changed sometimes. If
I had a radio station and I would invite you to do John's show, would it be a musical show? Would it be an interview show? What would be the formats of the show? And even if not just musical, which artist would you bring to a musical show? So let's break it into two questions. Boom. Be ready, you're next.
Have you heard of a show on the BBC that played that was really successful? That was called Desert Island Disc.
No, but I would do some research on that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's okay.
So the concept behind it, which is really, really good, is that you get someone who's quite interesting, and you get them in for a 1 hour show, and they get to play 5 or 6 songs, right? And they tell you why they've selected those particular ones, and
That sounds quite cool.
That's cool.
it
'Cause
really
it can be
is.
so different.
Yes.
And it's just another way of interviewing someone, because you then hear why that song's important and why it's part of their life. And if they were on a desert island, and that would be one of the 10 ones or one of the 6 ones that they'd actually take with them to play. And it tells you a lot about people, when you actually start getting into those type of things. And to answer the second part of it, I'm an old bugger, so I'm very influenced by the music of the 60s and 70s. That was sort of my era. Kieran, he's more 80s, 90s. And so we have a very healthy respect for each other's areas. And he thinks 80s and 90s was just the best music, and they really lost the plot during the 80s and 90s. 70s was the greatest music, in the 60s, late 60s particularly, So, I'm very influenced by, in the early days. I'm not such a great fan now, but the Beatles were really, really, part of my growing up time. And I love the Bruce Springsteen, the Simon and Garfunkel, all of those sort of things that, I listen. If you look at my playlist, I'm probably a real contradiction in terms, because I have some of that, but then I have quite a bit of the more recent modern music as well.
Right.
So I enjoy everything, and we push very strongly on CFM the message that we're very broad in what we cover from a music point of view. So you can hear something from today right through to 60s music.
Yes.
And the one thing that we require is that it had to have been a popular song in its day, so it had to be a number 1 or a number 2, somewhere around there that was in the playlist for quite some time. And it's got to be one that, the biggest thrill is when I'm sitting there and we hear the radio going in the background and someone's whistling or humming along to it, that gives me a huge, we've done it, when that happens. And we had someone around our place doing some work today, and they're whistling away to this thing, and I'm going,
Yeah. And the traders love CFMA. Yeah. I know they're like Taylor's on a mission, and we always talk about it with Brett, the other co-host, and like, man, people listen to CFM, and I'm like, I gotta do it, man.
It's really interesting because I go around the place, and I'm thrilled the uptake that we have and the people who listen to the station. But I'm also there for feedback, and this is this challenge that you have between putting on things that are of community interest, So we might have an interview with someone from one of the organisations promoting health in the oceans, for example, and really important topic, and one that we feel a responsibility to want to air, because people should hear why they're so passionate about the topic and why it's so important and why everybody should be taking these things on board. But when you're a tradie and you just want background music, and you've got someone, all you hear in the background is yak, 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 going on, and that suddenly they'll get up and they'll change the channel. They'll put some music on, and so we've got to be really careful about short, sharp sort of interviews that get to the point of something, but get back into the entertainment, get that blend sort of right. And I find it really frustrating going into some places and hearing one of the competition stations being played, because we really try so hard at the sort of localism, and here they're playing a station which is being piped out of Auckland or Christchurch, and where all of the profits that are made and taken out of this place go somewhere overseas. Because none of the network stations are owned in New Zealand. They're all owned offshore. And
Even RNZ, even the RNZ.
RNZ is a government-owned station, so so RNZ sits on its own, in a place. But I'm talking about all the other commercial stations.
Right.
So you've got you've got MediaWorks, which own brands such as More FM, and then you've got NZME with the Hits and ZM and ZB and those type of stations. So, look, it's great. That it gives people plenty of different options of things to look at. But supporting a local community station, we don't make money out of it. We don't. I can tell you, we've not taken a single cent from the day that we set this thing up. But we contribute to the community. We actually are there because of the passion of wanting to do that, which means we need the community to support us, and we need the advertising, and we need people listening to us.
Is that the sorry? Were you?
No, you go.
Is that the main source of income? Because you have employees, you have people working there, and you're paying those people. So, advertisement. Do you also charge if bands or musicians want to play on the radio? No.
No, we the only form of revenue that we receive is from advertising. And if you listen to us on a regular basis, you will actually hear us say, thanking those people, because without them we wouldn't be able to operate as a station. And why it's important to listen to them, because it's their opportunity as a business to pass on within a 30-second slot, or 15 seconds in some cases, a quick message about what's important in their business at that time, and worthwhile listening to, because otherwise you wouldn't know. It might be a special that they've got going. It might be that they're not open for this week for some reason, but it's there, and an ability to hear it. We've got a great advertisement running at the moment by Reed Brothers in Thames. And Reed Brothers have sponsored a segment which is about the history of Thames Coromandel, and it runs for about 2 to 3 minutes, and it's a story every day of that's read by someone, telling something that goes back 100 years or so, of what's taken place.
That's cool. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and so that's a local advertiser who has said, "Yep, we'd like to do that." And so we're working in conjunction with the museum and the heritage group down in Thames, and we've put that together. They've voiced it and worded it, and that's terrific radio to listen to. Yeah.
Do you, when you listen to the radio, do you have that feeling that you're always working, that like you're paying attention? I'm sure you trust the team, no question about that, but like, can you actually enjoy listening to the radio, or you have that kind of like, that look of analyzing what's happening and the way that it's coming to the air? Can you actually relax and enjoy your radio station?
Yeah, I can, and I very seldom give feedback myself to the staff, because I genuinely know they're really trying their hardest to put things across. So I'll give a little bit of coaching at times to say, have you thought about doing this or doing that? But really just leave them to it. So we have a few rules which we constantly have to reinforce sometimes, and that is the interviews short.
Yep.
So we don't want those to go too long, so we get that mix right.
Leave it for us, John. Leave it for ALTBAYS, man.
Yeah, we need you to do these things.
Here we are, man.
Yeah. And that the music, let the music stand on its own and just play it. We don't need to hear detailed long stories of every single song and every single artist. But if you've got something that people won't know about, then it's good to pass that on. But just let the music stand on its own and play it and enjoy it. So yeah, I have the radio going, you know, from first thing in the morning till late at night, and I'm listening all the time.
Do you watch TV? Are you into movies when you're not on your radio thing? What do you engage with entertainment, or you more like the news kind of guy?
No, I'm over news. You know, I find it too depressing, to be honest.
It can be sometimes.
Oh, what? Yeah.
I don't really watch the news either.
Yeah. I find everything so petty at the moment. You know, it's so no, I've turned off from largely watching news these days. What I do to, you know, chill out and do things, I listen to music. So outside of the radio, so I'll play my own.
So, big question. Do you like listening through your headphones, like earphones, or do you like listening out loud, like through a speaker?
Out loud.
Loud?
Yeah,
Do you like
yeah.
it like really loud?
I do. I do. But, you know, I save that up so I don't annoy Linda too much. You know? and
so she has to use the headphones.
Yeah, I
So
like
when-
listening to like super loud music whenever I'm listening to music.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to, or else it just doesn't come through.
So, you know, outside of that, I watch a bit of Netflix, or, you know, and I really enjoy British series, you know, that I find that particularly the British are really good at putting things together. I'm a bit over the American, you know, type of programs, you know, the same sort of thing all the time, you know, like crime, whatever it is, you know.
They've always got some crime
series
going on.
Yeah, shoot 'em up and all that sort of stuff. You know, I'm a bit over that. But the British are, I find, any case, are a little bit more interesting in the way that they actually write the scripts for it. You know, there's a little twist to everything. So,
what are you watching at the moment?
I've just finished watching Suspicion, which is it's actually on Apple TV, I think it was. So that was okay. I'm generally sort of moving through one of those sort of series that's on. So I'm looking for one at the moment. So if anybody's got any ideas, they can flick them through for us.
Our audience can
drop
send
it in the
some
comment
suggestions.
section.
Yeah. Were you always into those classic comedies like Monty Python and all the classic English humor?
I enjoy English humor.
It's a different level.
Yeah.
It's smart humor.
There's a group of friends, and every Monday night we used to go to this place, and we would with a couple of beers, and we'd listen to Monty Python, you know, and it was just such good entertainment and a really good bonding time, you know, for us. You know, we used to just laugh our heads off, and every time we'd see each other, we'd be, you know, replaying a little bit of what we'd heard somewhere along. So yeah, it was good fun.
Do you have musicians in your family?
No, love to. You know, I just feel there's this really missing component, you know, and
because you're so involved with the music. Yeah, it's there.
When I was at school, I decided that I'd learn violin, and I was terrible at it.
And it's quite a hard instrument to learn.
Such a bad instrument to be bad at it, you know.
Yeah, and it sounded worse than that actually. So I gave that away, and I really haven't sort of, you know, I look, I'm a busy sort of guy, so if I've got a void, I fill it with something. So, and you know, and playing music and radio has filled those voids, and not the guitar or the piano.
Maybe you could get into drums.
Yeah, man. Let's have a session, John. It's stress relief, man.
I'd love to see you and Dave Rhodes. I reckon that would be something to see. So it'd be you definitely get me along to that.
Let's do it, Dave.
Thrashing it
Let's
out.
do it, man. Let's do it. I was actually talking to Vegas Brown not that long ago. He was like, "Man, we should have like a drum thing, you know, like playing together. Maybe we do like a big room full of drummers.
That'd be really cool.
That would be cool.
That'd be cool.
Okay. Come up with ideas.
Well, you know, and I've spoken, I think, I don't know if I've spoken to you, but certainly Stu and Vegas, and said, you know, I really want, you know, one thing I want to achieve is a CFM sponsored concert that we that we turn on for the community. So free of charge, come along, sit down somewhere, on a rug, and we get all the local artists along to play. And just have a lot of fun.
Man,
that sounds really cool.
So our idea with ALTBAYS is to establish the live stream platforms. So what you're saying could gel with us so well, because if we manage to bring local artists, obviously, but some big names as well, to make the thing bigger.
Yeah.
How cool would that be? They come to the radio station, they come to have a chat here with us. We put the live stream there. So people from the community are obviously the ones who enjoy, but we're also live streaming to a bigger crowd. Might even bring more interest, so people can bring more things to our community. So we're king, we're down.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if we were doing that, the other thing that I'm very conscious of is that the community wouldn't survive without the work of volunteers, in the community. And you're talking about your ambulance people, the number of people who just take shifts on that to drive people across to Thames and back and so on. Our fire guys, that what a great team of people they are, so dedicated. They're getting called out at 2 a.m. in the morning. Derek Collier, who's the deputy chief, just down the way from here. He's got a permanent sign up. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where, sorry, we're closed. I'm attending a fire call. That's true community, isn't it? And what a contribution that these guys make, and they're there, the men and women of the volunteers around the place, and the community really should thank them at some point. And, so the idea, if we can blend this thing in of putting on a concert, but have the community actually cook some food for the volunteers who could come along in uniform, so they can actually recognise the people and what they're doing, and say thank you.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
we'll think about something. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Would you sing some songs for us?
Yeah, why not? Might cook some food too.
There you go.
What would you sing?
Whatever you want me to sing.
That's dangerous. People come with the weird requests.
With preparation, though, I can't just whip it up out of nowhere.
Paea is a great singer.
I might just make up the words.
Very humble.
Right.
She's a fantastic singer.
I look forward to hearing it.
Yes. That's cool, John. Is CFM already involved with events? I remember the busking festival that you guys had the van in town and were supporting that with Anusha and Dave Rhodes. Are you guys trying to expand and get more involved? Yeah.
So what we've said is that if it's a community event, a not-for-profit organisation, we'll do it for nothing. So we're there to help people, and we'll dedicate it. If there's a profit to be made, then we want to have a small share of
fair
that
enough.
profit.
Yes,
we need to, because we've got to be able to cover the costs. So if we have someone out, in the caravan or anywhere, we have to pay them. So and their livelihood depends on our success as a station. So it's so that's how we differentiate between them. So if you're a not-for-profit organisation, then we'll come in behind and provide any help that we can for it. If you're a profit organisation, we're absolutely keen to do the same thing. There'll be just a charge for it.
Right. I was thinking about something that you said before, and it was an interesting concept when I came to New Zealand. The thing with volunteers, right? Like, Brazil has a lot of problems and a lot of things don't work. But what I remember clearly is that, like, the fireman was the fireman and was getting paid to be a fireman. Like that kind of stuff, the ambulance people. I was from a big city, so those jobs were pretty established. But, like, I don't remember the volunteering thing being a thing. And then I come to New Zealand and I'm like, wow, this is super cool. This is great. What an awesome country, like rich and, well, compared to Brazil, right? I don't know, with all the places, but I was like, this is cool. And then I come to Whitianga, like flash houses, and wow, I'm like, whoa, look at this. And then like the guy building the house has to run to to put the fire down, and I'm put the fire out, and I'm like, whoa, like is it a thing? You know, so has it always been like that? Is it because it's a small community? Like it feels like the government could support that in a way. Am I being naive on what I'm saying, or just ignorant?
Well, I've never been to Brazil, but I've been to a few countries around the place, and I can recall, I spent quite a bit of time in the Philippines and went to some small community groups there, and I don't believe that they actually had a fire station, but they had a number of people who would be ready to help, and they had buckets and things like that. So it's the same concept. It's just organised at a different level. So we have a blend here where the government provide through insurance companies actually, and the premiums that you pay for the infrastructure at the fire stations.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
So the fire trucks, the uniforms are all provided through the central funds. It's just the people who go there to man it, volunteers. And the Whitianga station is entirely run by volunteers. There's not a single paid person. Wow. And they're covering a very wide area, and they're doing some pretty marvellous stuff. They're not only putting out fires these days, but they're actually first responders, for medical emergencies as well.
Yeah, I didn't mean to put them down, you know what I mean, right? It was more about like the structure, because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic, like the amount of people who do so many cool jobs, and they're also doing that service. You're like, whoa, you're a machine, man. Like you're working and then you're running, man. You're going for it. So I'm like, wow, that's.
Well, the one that I've missed so far is Coast Guard, of course. And boy, what a good job those guys do. And they're again funded through the Central Coast Guard organisation, and they just got a new boat recently, and it was one of the boats that was used as one of the support crew for the America's Cup. When it was here. And so they had, I don't know, about 20, 30 of these things. And then at the end of it, they were all donated to Coast Guard. And Coast Guard reset them for being Coast Guard vessels.
That's really cool.
Right. Have you done a lot of traveling, John? You mentioned the Philippines. I think we chatted about, was it South America or?
Yeah, I've been to quite a number of places. So, I've been to Chile and through that sort of area went. That's where I've been in South America. I haven't done too much other South American travel. Been through the States, been to Canada, been through Europe, and travelled quite a bit. But Linda and I enjoy travel, and we've missed out. So in fact, we had only just returned from India.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
We'd been in India for, Linda had been there for 3 weeks, I went for 2 weeks. And we arrived back here on the on the 1st of March, we arrived here 2020. So just as COVID was happening, so literally we're going through scary places, we're going through Singapore airport, and everybody's in PPE gear, and we've just come out of India, and we go, what's going on here, and really started to digest, because we'd not heard any of the messaging around COVID, very little information coming out about it, and suddenly people are there with these things, and they're taking your temperature as you go through the airport, like if you've got a temperature, you go in there and you're not quite sure what's in there.
Yeah, it's got to be a bit scary.
Yeah, it was really scary, and then arrived back here, and within 2 weeks, I think, we were in lockdown. So, it all happened so quickly.
Lucky you were able to come back, though, because a lot of people got, kind of trapped overseas.
Yeah. I would have swum back, I think. But, yeah, look, and what an experience, if you've never been to India, just, it's got to be on your list at some stage. Fascinating country. Just amazing. Amazing.
What called you, like, the most attention? Was it the people, the colors, the flavors, or just the whole thing?
Well, yeah, you name it. Linda went there because she has another group of friends who go away quite regularly and do yoga. And so she was there with that group and in the southern areas of India. And then I came in and we travelled through the northern areas and then on to Nepal afterwards before we returned and got back here in time. So, there's lots of places that are still on the list of places that we'd like to go and visit.
I'm sure there's a lot of places that you said that you would like to go, but which one would you go back?
Look, we really enjoy the Pacific Islands, the people in the Pacific Islands, and it's close, from New Zealand, so far away from everywhere, but it's really, really nice to go and just feel the love and and the support. They always welcome you, and you feel really terrific about it all. So yeah, I'd be a regular going through to the Cook Islands, Fiji, and I love those places. But outside of that, long trips. Enjoy the UK, and I love Europe. We would like to really spend some time in places that we haven't been to, Scandinavian countries. Would have loved to have spent time in Ukraine, but obviously what's happening there now is just unbelievable. Yeah. I never really got too excited about Russia, and probably now for good reasons. Natural sort of antenna was going.
Oh man, sad day. Yeah.
But there's just so much that we'd like to do at some stage. So got to try and reorganise a couple of things to find some time
to start moving again.
Yeah.
It feels like everybody's is now kind of like trying to plan again,
the itch.
make the moves.
Well,
and
because everything's opening up.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think we're gonna have a wave of tourists during winter, or you think that people will save it for summer? How do you see this new moment of the borders opening up?
Look, I think the indicators are really strong. So, I saw Gary Fitzsimmons the other day was talking about on the bus and who he was seeing. So he had a group of people the other day. I think he said there was a Scottish person and there was someone else from the States and someone else, and he said, we haven't had this before. So really, really good indicators that it is starting to happen. I think there'll be a caution. People will be a bit cautious, and I think we're probably still not completely out of the woods. So there'll still be some rules and stuff that'll slow things down, but it's starting to happen.
Yeah. Did you get it to your head at some stage? The pandemic, the isolation, the lockdowns. Did you feel like, oh man, this is not me? Or
yeah, I feel that a lot. I still feel it today. It's not natural for me to hibernate or not be involved in things. So I miss the interaction with people. I don't like rules. I'm not a great rules person. So when people tell you have to wear a mask, I understand the reasons why, but I don't feel comfortable with it. I'm fully vaccinated, but I respect people who are not. So it's a choice thing, and it's whatever you feel comfortable with. So you go for it. But I also strongly believe that you've got responsibility to people around you as well. So, if you're not feeling well, don't go out, or just behave.
Just common sense.
It is common sense, and I've had some friends that we've had to have some stern chats about a few things. Try and remind people of what common sense really is. So.
I think Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this CFM brought someone who went to the thing in Wellington, and it got a little bit agitated because I think the person was not that ready to talk. So that might be a tricky one to navigate as well, like to being the place that provides space for a debate, which is great, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like we do the same here, you know, like we always tell people, you're responsible for your words, you know, like if you're not lying, if you're not spreading misinformation in our platform, you actually can say whatever
Totally
you want to
agree.
say. But then you're live and then you're on the spot and then you're like, oh, did you freak out? Have you ever freaked out with someone
No.
going on? Never.
I've certainly got to the point where we've had to shut down a conversation, you know, because we're not entirely comfortable that what might be
Turn
being
off the
said
mic.
is right. And, you know, we're subject to defamation laws, and there are certainly people that are listening all the time, listening for those things. But
They're
look,
actually listening to those things. They're waiting to.
no. Yeah, it's a funny old world that we live in, but that's a topic for another day. But you know, I'm a great believer that you know, it's good to give people a soapbox sometimes and let them express their,
Definitely.
you know, because you're not always right in what you do. You've got to be there and listening, and so, you know, it's important to hear the other side of stories sometimes. You know, I'm passionate about, funnily enough, local body politics, and very few people are. You know, the level of people voting in local body is very low, and
True. Yes.
and you know, we have democracy now at risk as a result of people's apathy in regard to wanting to get out and do something about it. So you'll see me actively pushing very hard about local body politics and talking to aspirants for council and mayor. It's so important for our community. We've got to get the right people into those jobs, and they've got to be energised around the things that are important for the community. So, you know, there's some big topics coming up now. You know, the Three Waters, very controversial. We've taken quite an active role in bringing the debate to the open. So, you know, we supported public meetings. We streamed live the meetings so people could listen to them. We've been called racist as a result of it. You know, there isn't a racist bone in my body. You know, I just want debate and discussion on the topics from all sides of the arguments. And you know, we've also got the review of local body government, and you know, that's another thing that's coming up in the next little while. So, you know, people need to, like it or not, they need to get involved. And if they don't, they could lose it. And if they lose it, then that we could be into 4 or 5 regions around New Zealand with people, you know, in Hamilton or other places outside of our own area making decisions about key things for us here. Right. And is that good? I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's good to know, because everybody talks about the prime minister, blah blah blah, but actually the people who make the biggest impact, they're here, right?
Yeah.
They are just next to us. They're making the decisions that interfere in our area first. So we should be aware of what's going on. John, election times, when it comes, do you have, correct me if I'm wrong, do you have like parties and politicians, they have an amount of time that they can have on the radio and on the TV? Is that how it works, or?
No, you know, there are certainly rules around them but they've got to buy it. So yeah, they stump up with some money, and you know, they're sitting there with real strategists around what the best way of communicating into groups is, and social media is a really big part of that these days. I struggle with that sometimes, you know.
Dangerous, man.
Yeah. And I think the true personality of people, you know, what you read in social media, or even the little clips that come out, are very orchestrated things, you know, they're very carefully written. You're better to get into this sort of environment and talk to people one-on-one and find out more about the people and what's important and how they tick and why, they're good to represent you in a role in the local body.
Right. In Brazil, there was a big thing with WhatsApp. The message app. Yeah. So when Bolsonaro, when the president who is in charge now, when he was running for that election, there was a lot of accusations of people from his party to create those huge WhatsApp groups. In New Zealand, I don't know if it's that big, but in Brazil, like, people have groups with a lot of people in the same room, in the same WhatsApp room, and there was a lot of dissemination of false information. So that's why I'm so precious about, like, people complain about the media a lot, but I say, well, at least this thing with, like, saying right things, it's very important, and when you go for the social media and you say, well, at least it's free and we can say whatever you want, and you're like, yeah, but don't forget that that's when people lie the most. If it's easy to say whatever you want to say, it's very easy to manipulate people as well. You got to be careful that you don't twist things there. Well,
yeah, no, look, I agree with you, and one of the things that I'm going to do is organise a meet the candidates. So we'll get the people together and we'll give them 10 minutes on their soapbox to talk, and then we'll ask them some questions, and then we'll open it up for general questions. And after 1 hour, we'll close it down. And so you're only making 1 hour time frame of being away from home, but you'll get to hear what people stand for and what's important to them. So we'll do that right around the whole Coromandel. We'll have those sessions. And the first ones of those we'll be putting on probably in the next few weeks, and to give people an opportunity to meet them.
Do you have something to ask?
No.
Would you run for anything in politics? Would you be a politician, John?
Oh, I'm not a politician. I'd be putting my foot in my mouth all the time. So, because I tell it as it is, and sometimes people don't like to hear that. So
yeah, most of the time people don't want to hear that.
Most of the time, man.
They want to hear what they want to hear.
Sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, the answer is I have no plans to enter it, but I have a lot of plans about getting the right people in there and supporting the right democratic process for those elections. I think the topics that are on the table at the moment are critically important, and it's so important that people understand that and participate in that selection process.
Yes, and it's coming, eh? Is it October?
Yeah.
Yes. What are we voting for this year? Do you know?
The local body election. So this
local.
is voting for mayor, for councillors, and then for the local bodies, for the local boards that provide the input to the councillors who ultimately make the decisions for the area. This is the Thames Coromandel is $100 million business. It's not a small business, and we need people who have got the talents and ability to be able to run a business of that size and make the right commercial decisions.
Yes, it's Linda. She's like, come on, man. Why you're not home? Come on, John. Yeah. Talk to her, man. Talk to her. Answer the phone, man. Tell that she's live, man.
Yeah.
Do you vote the Paea?
Hello. How are you? No, I'm still on the podcast.
Hi, Linda.
Yeah. All right. So you're going. Oh, okay. Bye. See.
Oh no! Was that our fault, man?
So she wasn't watching me, you see. So
oh damn!
Yeah.
She's saving for the trip to listen to you while she's going for the trip.
She's been out for dinner at my son's place tonight. So he was cooking her a meal and seeing the grandkids. And,
cool.
And then she's going back to pack her bag, her what do you call it? That she'll take on the tramp with her. Yeah, the pack. Mm.
Was she waiting for you to pick her up, and now she's like, oh,
no,
it's taking too long. No,
she's back
she's
in
got to
Auckland.
walk. No.
You can blame ALTBAYS.
She's very capable of looking after herself. So yeah.
So, Paea, while I have a look in our live chat, I asked you if you would, if you vote. Have you voted? Do you?
No, I actually haven't voted, and the only reason is because like I really don't understand it, and that's probably my fault. I should probably learn a little bit more about it, but.
Look, it's around the whole principles of democracy, which are that the people elect people to represent them, and if people don't vote, then what they're doing is limiting who's making those decisions, and it's only those people who are particularly passionate normally about subjects or people. So you get skewed, and that's why it really is so important for people to get out there and vote, and we'll try and do whatever we can to get that message out there, so we get as many people voting this time as we can.
Especially
I think 40%, something like that, voted at the last local body elections.
Only 40%.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's really low, and we need to get more.
Especially if you're into complaining, you should vote first. At least you make sense. Okay. Well, public service, right, John? It's important. We got here a question. Where's the sound? I hope we got it sorted. We got the man from the radio station and some live streamers, so I hope we got the sound sorted. You're welcome. CFM is awesome. I go back to when the jingle used to say C95. It's great to hear that the radio is growing. ALTBAYS Show should play at the radio. Perhaps some highlights. Thanks, John. That's the audience. That's not me. That's actually the audience asking. Good idea. Gabe.
That was very popular, the jingles that we first came out with was C95.
C95, man.
Yeah, and we used to, be parked up somewhere, and people would drive past, or not drive past, they'd be riding past or walk past, and you'd hear them go, C95.
Cool.
So good, yeah.
See, there you go. It worked. And thank you. Yes, we're gonna talk about putting the ALTBAYS, good collaboration with CFM. We're getting there. We also get okay. This is a cool question from Doug. Thanks, Doug. Where do you see CFM in the next 10 years or so? Great show, guys. Nice to see this kind of collaboration. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
10 years from now.
Doug.
Yes. Where are we gonna be in 10 years, man?
Yeah. Look, I think. As I said earlier, that multiple platforms are always a solution. So, you provide something we can't provide, and that is the in-depth ability to be able to really get to know and understand people. We can take those snippets, and I think we talked about it earlier on, and we would love to be able to replay parts of those things, and then promote the fact, if you really want to, you listen to the whole lot of it and go here to do that. And, I think it would work exceptionally well.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. It's a Paea.
Yeah.
One more from Gabe. So Gabe was the one who mentioned the jingle. And when we were talking about the funny English shows, he mentioned The Office. The British version. Have you ever come across The Office?
Absolutely.
Ricky Gervais?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
He's so
good.
clever.
I love his
Yeah.
comedy. It's so good.
And, the latest one of his is Afterlife.
I finished watching last night.
Yeah, I've watched that. I've watched the first
cool.
season, but not this. No, I haven't watched the second season yet.
Yeah, it's as good as the first.
How great, eh? Like
Very clever.
it's so like
He's so irreverent, isn't he? And he really makes you feel like, why couldn't I have said that?
Exactly.
Sums it up so well, eh?
Yes. And this character in the afterlife, it's so him, like it's just perfect for him. Like I feel like he didn't have too much stress to write that character because you can see that it's very
But he's like
honest.
funny without trying, but it's also really compassionate in the way that he portrays that story. It's really good.
Yeah, you're right. He has that knack, doesn't he, of being able to be quite irreverent, but actually at the same time show that, it's an important topic. And
That's right. We got one more here from Hanako Liggins. Hi, John. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I was wondering if it would be possible to play one of my songs on the radio, please. I'll tell you, man, I know Hanako. Hanako is a fantastic singer, and she she recorded a video clip. Her songs are awesome, good songs. But Amy, she's a movie director and she lives in Kuatunu, and she directed and she made a beautiful video clip for her. So she's onto something.
Terrific. Yeah, just hello at CFM or John at cfm.co.nz and just send us through the details. We'll be in touch. You know, we absolutely want to support local artists. So, you know, I love, you know, I can hear every one of the songs that we now play, and you know, it gives me a buzz to know that we're playing local artists, and the talent, you know, they're really good. So keen. Yep.
There you go. There you go, Hanako.
Yeah.
Yay. We got you sorted. Nice. John, if not radio stations and insurance companies, what would you be doing? If not those beautiful things that you already do, what are your other passions in life?
Well, 4 grandchildren. So
That takes time, eh?
Yeah, and we have, and Linda, you know, is a great grandmother, so she spends as much time as she can. Fishing, I enjoy getting out on the water, whether I catch fish or not. You know, it's a bit of peace, and that's a good spot. And as I said to you earlier, you know, spending time down central Otago, it's just such a nice place.
What are we missing in our area? What does the Coromandel deserve that is not here yet?
Good question. You know what,
Don't say a fast food. Thank you.
No, I look. I'm actually a great believer that you enjoy it more if you don't get it very often, and
That's so true.
My man.
And so just keep them out for a while, because you'll enjoy it when you get to have that chance to do it. What are we missing? I think that we're missing collaboration around the place to be able to bring to the public that come and visit us here a complete picture of what we do. And there's so many good things to do that we could make it a much more exciting place to come and visit. And when you look at some of the numbers around the place, the average spend in places like Queenstown versus visits to the Coromandel, you know, they're spending half here what they would spend on an average visit in some of the other places. And it's because it just needs better coordination and organisation. So I think being imaginative around some of the stuff that we do, the fishing trips or the tours around Cathedral Cove, the oceans that we have, the ability to be able to get out and do things, but putting them together into packages that families can actually participate and do things, I think are all part of what we could, you know, do more of. So I don't know if that's answering the question.
Oh,
but
definitely. Yes.
Yeah, I think that making the Coromandel a little bit more cohesive in regard to what it can offer. Gee, it's great that Barrier Air fly in here now.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
It's just, you know, I see that plane coming in. It flies over my place, you know, down the estuary, and then comes in and does the circuit and lands. And I'm going, yeah, you know, it's.
Have you flown? Have you done?
Yet, not yet.
Cool.
I've been in the plane, and
Okay.
I went and they showed me around the scene.
Was that Grant?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Grant Bacon.
I haven't met, but I want to.
So I'm really looking forward to doing that. You know, it's sort of around that $110 mark, I think, for a trip, and you'd just about spend that in petrol these days. You know, so. And 20 minutes, you
might as well.
How great, eh?
Yeah.
20 minutes to
from wheels up to wheels down. You know, it's just terrific. I'd like to fly. You know, I used to fly.
I was
planes,
thinking about it. Oh, okay.
and I gave that up when I had, you know, young family and no money, and still don't have a lot of money because I spend it and invested in things. But flying is definitely on that list.
Do you know John Stephenson? Yeah.
I know the name, yeah.
Yeah, he's part of the helicopter rescue team. Yeah, so there are interesting people in our area who are flying there. So
I don't know if I could fly.
nah.
No.
You mean flying a plane or actually going in an airplane?
Oh, like
No,
I don't
you're
mind going
fine.
in an airplane. I
But
just
being-
couldn't trust myself
what
to
about
fly
all
a
the
plane.
kids? The kids from Mercury Bay, they build the planes.
Fantastic.
And
I know that's quite cool, but then you really got to trust yourself.
you do. Well, it's what life is all about. You need to put yourself under tests all the time. So
I don't know if I'd want to fly a plane that I've made.
we'll fly one someone else's
Yeah,
plane.
yeah, definitely. But not my plane.
Yeah.
How old were you when you were flying?
It was just after I got married, so it would have been early 20s, mid 20s, sort of around that time.
Were you actually considering making that a thing for you, or now it was just for?
No, it was just. My dad used to fly. He was in the Air Force in the Second World War, and
wow.
and so he talked about it a little bit, but he was definitely passionate about flying. And I grew up in an area where I used to go down to the local airport and watch the planes coming in and out, and that was definitely something that I sort of had lots of dreams about.
Wow.
So yeah, I just find it fascinating how you can the whole sort of principle of putting something, a motor in something and it going down and being able to lift off and fly, and you look at the big planes, the Dreamliners and those sort of things up in the sky, and you just go,
How is that even
How does
possible?
that work?
yeah, and just keep working, for goodness sake. Don't
Wow.
stop working.
But that story about your father, do you remember stories? Do you remember him telling you stories about the war, the time that he was serving?
Yeah, look, he didn't actually enter, and he was a flight training officer, so he was based up in Canada, which is one of the reasons I went to Canada. I went back to the area that he was in, and had a look around there. So he would get New Zealanders coming up there and being trained by him in Canada, which was very similar type of conditions that they were flying in Europe. So they'd be trained and then they'd go across and then fly the planes. So he was very fortunate from the point of view he never actually had active service from from combative service. But he definitely spent quite a bit of time flying around, and we had lots of photos of that. And so he interesting guy. He went into the ministry and became a minister, and so I grew up in a very religious family, and that has shaped me quite a bit. Not from the point of view of being necessarily religious, but my underlying beliefs in people and doing the right thing by people in life. And the principles of a lot of the things that came out of Christianity that I do fundamentally believe in. So it's but I'm not religious, and I met Chris Luxon, the National Party leader, recently. And
Is it the bald fella?
Yeah.
Is he still the leader?
And I was, he is.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him,
It's
and
changing all the time, National?
and I was saying to him,
Just saying.
people say that you're a real fundamentalist, from a Christian belief. And he says, it's funny how people talk about things. He said, I haven't been to church in 6 years, so, but I believe in it, and good on you, it's. And I tell you that story because it resonates with me, because it's how I feel about things.
Where did you meet him? Was it here in the Coromandel?
No, met him in Auckland at a dinner he was at. So,
right. How do you see the National coming for the next election?
it comes back to what I was talking about with democracy and the need to do that. So the people will decide, and I think that there's a lot of things that will be put into the mix around that. You know, the response to COVID, how the economy's doing. I think that we're going into pretty challenging times over the next 12 months. And people are going to have to decide who's best to try and lead things through. And, you know, we have a history of turning parties over every 6 years. It seems to happen quite regularly.
Yeah.
You know, I again come back to find the right people, you know, and the people that are the right ones that can lead things through.
The party doesn't really matter. If we get good people there, that's all we need, eh?
Yeah. I think there's very small differences when you really get down to it between the parties. You know, they talk the talk, but when you actually get involved, they're very similar in many, many ways. So it's around the people that are leading it that become more important.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. Yeah, election times and so much going on.
Yeah.
Right. And it's good to know that CFM will provide.
Yeah, no,
the
we'll
space.
definitely
That's cool.
we'll definitely get the local councillors on. We'll get the people who are putting their hand in for the mayoralty, and you know, we've got a local person here who's put their hand up in Len Salt.
Len. Yeah.
And we've got someone else who's put their hand up in based out of Onimana, John Freer, who's the manager of Goldfields Mall. And so there are two people that have not been councillors. They're just fresh from it. Sandra Gowdy hasn't said whether she's going to
Do you know
stand
her?
again.
Do you know her?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I have met her on several occasions through CFM, and I've spoken to her and interviewed her a couple of times on radio. So yeah, I don't really know her though. You know, I think she's quite a complex person from you know what you can see. So, funnily enough, a little tidbit here, I'm related to her. Right.
Great.
So her maiden name is Grant, and when 3 or 4 generations ago, when the original Grant family came out from the UK, there were 2 brothers, and one brother went down south, and the other brother was based out of Wellsford, and I come from that Wellsford side of the family.
Great.
And she comes from the southern side of the family. So, yeah, there's some. It's amazing, isn't it? Those DNA connections that you can find around the place. So.
And that's good of you guys, because family usually doesn't talk to each other. So it's you guys are all good with not talking that much. You know, that's what family.
I don't know if we share a lot of the same beliefs or philosophies in life, but. And I only found that out because she brought it to my attention, and I saw that.
She brought it up. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah. And so, and she came along with a whole lot of material on the family history, and gave it to me and said, "Have a read of it." But it hasn't helped me at all. I haven't been able to get any breaking stories from her or anything like that.
Great.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. John, what a pleasure, man. That's
Yeah.
cool. It's been a great. We've been here for 2 hours. See, we were talking about the time,
unbelievable.
and
It never feels that long when you're actually
time
talking.
flies, man.
Yeah.
We're having fun.
No, it's been a pleasure, and you know we'll get you on CFM sometime, but it won't be 2 hours, unfortunately.
No.
Unless you want to do a show, you know.
I can, man. So one of the things that I wrote in the YouTube description was like, how am I gonna convince John to play some hip hop and some punk rock on the radio? I can be pop with hip hop and punk rock. I can find the right tunes.
2 a.m. in the morning, we can put
That's
you on.
me. It's the midnight show. That's me, man. Yeah, I'm king. I'll write 10 playlists for
So
you
maybe
tomorrow.
I'll return the thing to you, and I'll get you on for a 1 hour session one night, and you bring your 6 bits of music along and tell the
Great.
story, right?
We can start
and we'll
that
do
way.
a desert island disc. And
Cool.
how would that be?
What do you think, Jason?
We'll wait for Jason to come along.
Yeah. Oh, man.
He can host it, and you and I can chat through it.
Easy, right?
Yeah.
And so a few things that I want to say before we wrap it up. I love the radio. I love media in general. I love this thing with communicating with people. And for me, coming to a country where I speak a second language makes me very self-conscious sometimes. So what I'm doing here, it's really like I'm putting myself out there, you know, to talk and to fight my demons and my fears. So this is great. But honestly, what CFM provides, like allowing me to do that thing with Jason, you know, like, and you guys being cool with a foreigner, with my mistakes and my accents and putting my voice out there, I'm so grateful for that. And like, it means a lot. So I just want to say thank you first for
Oh, thank you for doing it.
It's fun.
It's no issue from our point of view, and you know, we've got other foreign accents on the station, but they're all people. They all have something to contribute to the local community. So
thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. And the second thing, I love that you're coming here to talk about collaborations, because ALTBAYS would be nothing and we won't go far if we don't collaborate. So, you know, we come from a big city, Taylor and I, from Sao Paulo, and we see how important it is, you know, like the radio people, the internet, the newspaper, the local magazines, you know, like there's room for everybody. And we got to do this together. Otherwise, you know, like it grows all weird. And as you said, when the tourists come, people can tell the vibe. When the place is solid, there's always a cool event at the end of the day. And the radio station is pumping in all the local businesses. And the newspaper is there, you know, so you can have a look as well. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. Yeah. And I really hope you can count on us on this mission as well, you know, because I don't know. We know that there are people doing an amazing job, you know, like all about Fitianga online, but we wanna do our thing as well. So I think the best way to do is together.
Yeah, look, we're kindred spirits. I think we have very similar understanding of what we're trying to achieve, and you can do things we can't do. So, you know, you have our full support and love what you're doing. And I can, more than anybody else, appreciate the investment that you put into this. And we've got to find a way to make sure it continues to be a successful one to be able to continue to afford to operate. So
thank you very much. And we got the 2 a.m. show.
Yeah.
Yeah. To Paea and Leo. 2 a.m. from next week. Don't lose it.
Yeah,
hey.
We'll just be busting out rap songs all the time.
And lovely to meet you, Paea.
Yeah, no, it was really
I haven't
good to
sort
meet
of
you
bumped into you anywhere, so yeah.
It was good. I actually really enjoyed that. I learned a lot about earthquakes and radios.
There you go.
And insurance.
There you go. Yes. Have you
traveling.
Have you got any insurance?
I've got car insurance.
Boom.
Good on you.
That's the most important one.
Good on you. Someone bumped into my car this afternoon. So my friend said, well, it was not your fault, but call your insurance company, right? Just in case. And then I called the lady, and then she's like, okay, no, it's all good. You got third-party insurance, so, like, there's nothing we can do anyway. But make sure that you tell the other guy that you don't have an insurance, because the insurance company they want to know if you got it or not. And I was don't lie. I was like, I got no reason to lie. But it was funny to listen to the lady from the insurance company saying, pay attention to the other insurance company, you know. I'm like, nah, cool. I'll keep that in mind. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much for the information. Paea, what a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was
for
great.
joining us. Yes. And John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, look forward to the 2 a.m.
Oh, man.
Although the 1 hour one we'll do at a more social hour. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My playlists can be quite broad. We can go to many places, so
yeah,
I'll be happy to do that.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Start planning it.
Oh man, it's already happening. I got 10 hours already. Hey, and we're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 7 p.m. on YouTube, on Twitch. As soon as this show is done, you can watch the show again on YouTube, and tomorrow on all our podcast platforms. You know what to do, ALTBAYS.nz. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You help us a lot by doing that. And on Friday, there's Gavin Hewitson, fantastic stand-up comedian, coming to ALTBAYS Show. He's doing a gig Saturday at the Monkey Theater, and we're gonna have an epic chat here on Friday, and you don't want to miss that. I'll see you guys. Peace. Bye.